Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Active Listening with T4 Tactics. I'm your host, Marco Galbraith, and we've got someone in the studio, Bethany Harrison, Lynchburg Commonwealth Attorney. Welcome.
Yes, Marco. Welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming out, because guys and girls, this is going to be answering some questions, not giving some guidance, but this is going to be answering some questions on justifiable use of force, when you can use your firearm, what's going to happen if you use your firearm. I get asked in my firearm safety classes all the time, what if? And we got to make it clear, we're not here to tell you you can or can't, but we're going to give you some guidance on the law and legal aspects. And the main thing to remember is, just because you can shoot someone doesn't mean you really should. We always want to back away and be the reasonable person if we can, but this is just going to give you some legal background. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Bethany Harrison. I'm the Commonwealth's Attorney for the City of Lynchburg. I was first elected and started my first term in 2018. Mm-hmm. I was with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office since 2006. Before that, I always wanted to be a prosecutor. I love fighting for justice for our victims of crime. I love serving the public and participating in forums like this where I can educate people about the law, because it shouldn't be a mystery to folks.
Right.
So I'm married. I have 2 boys of my own here in the city and very much enjoy living here.
One was a little nervous going to school the other day.
Yes, he's been just fine. They're in 2 different schools now, and he had to brave the first day of school alone without his big brother, but he did just fine. Yeah,
I saw the pictures on social media, and I was a mama's boy when I was the same way. Boy, my mom would drop me off and leave, and it was the end of the world. And then soon, about 2 years ago, I kind of got over that.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
I'm just weaning myself now off of it. So the biggest question I get asked all the time in the gun class is, I tell them, you can do this with your gun, you can't do that, responsible gun ownership, and then I get asked, when can I shoot somebody? So let's talk about that. When, I don't want to say you can shoot somebody, but what are some of the guidelines of the law? What does the law say about in Virginia? I was a cop in Florida. I don't know Virginia law, so I'm careful to answer that.
Well, Marco, you bring up a good point that every state is different. Mm-hmm. Here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we do recognize self-defense. I too cannot tell someone, prospectively, yes, you can do this, no, you can't do that, because everything is so fact-driven. It's so much based on the circumstances as they were going on at that time and people's perceptions. Yeah. What I can tell people is a little information about the law of self-defense in Virginia.
Right.
What I have a book here before me that are the Virginia Model Jury Instructions. Anyone can find this online. If you Google Virginia Model Jury Instructions, it comes up as a big PDF form. Yeah. You can entertain yourself reading up on all of the laws of Virginia.
Put yourself to sleep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But it gives a good summary of the law as it is. So in Virginia, we have fault self-defense and no fault self-defense. Mm-hmm. When we are looking at fault self-defense and no fault self-defense, the analysis here, when you're looking at the model jury instructions, are that someone's already been charged. So that's what people need to be thinking about, is we're analyzing this because something really terrible has happened. And the last thing we want is for one person to take human life. It's an absolute last resort.
Absolutely.
And that's reflected in our law as well. So without fault self-defense, I stay out of trouble if I stick to the language of the law. So I'm just going to read the jury instruction here to you that says, a person is without fault, if they are without fault, in provoking or bringing on the fight. So they did not start the fight. Someone else was the aggressor. Mm-hmm. If that person reasonably feared, under the circumstances as they appeared to him, that he was in imminent danger of bodily harm, and he used no more force under the circumstances as they appeared to him than was reasonably necessary to protect himself from the perceived harm, then he acted in self-defense.
Right.
And that's where a person is innocent of bringing on the fight or the fray. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to turn here now to fault self-defense. So if you are the one provoking the fight, there's a different analysis, and a person has different duties here. So if a person is to some degree at fault in provoking or bringing on the fight, the person must then, to assert self-defense, he must have retreated as far as he safely could under the circumstances in a good faith attempt to abandon the fight, and he made known his desire for peace by word or act, and he reasonably feared, under the circumstances as they appeared to him that he was in imminent danger of bodily harm, and he used no more force under the circumstances as they appeared to him than was reasonably necessary to protect himself from the perceived harm, then he acted in self-defense. So you see a lot of language here. It talks about under the circumstances as they appeared to him, and both standards want the person to only use what force is reasonably necessary to repel the attack,
right,
with loss of life being the absolute last resort.
Right. And both of those you read, the word reasonably keeps coming up. Mm-hmm. Reasonable. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also in Virginia, we get questions about what someone can do in their own home. And Virginia does recognize the castle doctrine. Okay. And the thought there is that a man or woman's home is his or her castle. Mm-hmm. You should be able to protect yourself and be safe in your home. Mm-hmm. And what it boils down to, as far as the effect of that thought, is that a person does not have a duty to retreat in one's own home if that person is under attack. Now, again, the standard is still only using the force that's absolutely necessary to repel the attack. Also, you cannot use deadly force to protect property alone. I think that's another important point. Very important.
Yes. Very important. Rewind that, you guys, and listen to it again. You can't use deadly force to protect property.
Yes, if someone's stealing your purse, take the purse, you have your life.
Exactly.
And move on from there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Give them what they want. You got insurance, but and a lot of people in the gun classes, their jaws drop and their eyes bug out when I say you can't shoot somebody for stealing something from you.
You have to have that imminent, immediate, it's about to happen threat of serious bodily injury or death to yourself or to another person that you're protecting.
Right, and they better be able to explain that to your office, a judge, a jury.
I think a good point that you bring up is about when these things happen, it's never textbook. It's never what you planned. That's why we really emphasize the facts and circumstances and your ability to articulate to law enforcement who may see it differently than how you saw it at the time, and why you even don't even want to threaten using your firearm. That can be brandishing. Mm-hmm. There is a jury instruction regarding self-defense when it comes to the presentation of or brandishing a firearm. And so here the instruction says, if you believe from the evidence that the defendant was without fault in provoking or bringing on the incident, so again, the person using the firearm can't be the one picking the fight, and if you further believe that the defendant reasonably feared, under the circumstances as they appeared to him, that he was in danger of being killed or that he was in danger of great bodily harm, then his pointing, holding, or brandishing a firearm was in self-defense, and you shall find the defendant not guilty. And brandishing in Virginia is when you place another person in reasonable fear or apprehension of being shot. Mm-hmm. So again, this is very fact and circumstance dependent. But we want to emphasize to people to not use their firearms as a way to, wield intimidation over another person in traffic or at the store or otherwise, because there could be legal consequences for you.
So if I'm having an argument in Walmart over a parking spot, or maybe I shouldn't say Walmart, at a store. Sorry, Walmart. if I'm in a shopping center parking lot having an argument over a parking spot, and I raise my shirt and show my gun, I could get in trouble for that.
Absolutely, could be considered brandishing.
Yeah, and that's not reasonable gun ownership. We don't. I talk about my gun classes. This mess with Aubrey in Atlanta, where there was not a firearm involved in whatever Aubrey was doing. There was not a firearm involved in that. Well, the two guys that called the police and chased it down brought a firearm into that, and that's where it went bad. So, as responsible gun owners, we just chill, with our firearm.
Right, and in situations like that, it's not up to the folks in the neighborhood to be vigilantes.
No.
You need to call the police.
And I tell people, be the best witness you can. Best witness on 911, because you just don't get involved, especially if it's just property. We have insurance to pay for that. You'd be very careful. Anything else you want to add?
No, just, I'm glad people are taking these classes, taking concealed weapons permit classes. I think it's important for people to understand the law of the Commonwealth, again, knowing that each state you go to is different, that we want to encourage responsible gun ownership, and part of that responsibility is not wielding the gun in a way that makes you, have force or intimidation or power over another person, but it really is just for your personal self-defense or for sport.
Right, for sport, recreation. I saw a father and his kid probably had about 10 years old at the shooting range the other day, and awesome. And they do it for recreation. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot of people at the shooting range, families that go out and shoot for recreation. So I've
heard a number of stories of people that have built their personal confidence.
Yes.
Taking on shooting as a sport or a hobby.
Yeah. But for personal protection. But thank you for coming out, Bethany Harrison from Lynchburg Commonwealth Attorney's Office. Always a big help, especially the Second Amendment. You're always a big help to me and to keeping people to keep good people out of trouble with their firearms.
So it's my pleasure. And I guess the last thing I'd emphasize is always check on the law because it can change from year to year.
That's right.
So this is August 2020. This is the law as it is August of 2020.
That's right.
Our legislature's in a special session right now. Who knows what's going to come out of it? But any year the law can change and frequently does.
Where is the best place? And here's another question. I get asked this a lot, and I've been asked it this last couple of weeks. Where is the best place to go to look at law changes on what they're doing this week in Richmond? Where do we go to look for that? Most reliable?
Sure.
Facebook?
No, not Facebook. People should Google LIS. So Larry Igloo Sam.
Yeah, LIS.
Virginia.
Okay.
Bills.
Okay.
BILLS.
Yeah.
And it will come up with a page that will talk about bills and resolutions. It should pop on up as the August 2020 special session.
Okay.
If you're interested in looking for laws right now, what's being put out there. There are different links to click on. You can look on all bills and resolutions. You can look for things that that the bills that are still alive, as it were. You can filter it out and click through each bill, look at the language. Don't rely on the summary of the bill. Look at the actual bill itself.
Okay.
Read the language of the bill itself. There should also be a summary in there of what action has been taken on the bill.
Okay. Excellent. That's really good information because I get asked all the time, where do I go to look at this stuff? And the responsible gun owners want to know that you better know that before you strap that gun on and walk out the house, you better know if there's any laws that have changed, even to what firearm you're carrying. That could be subject to change coming up. Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you, Bethany Harrison, again, very much for your time. I appreciate you coming out. And you guys remember, everyone, we've read some state statutes here, Commonwealth statutes, and we have to realize that every situation is different. Every possible violent encounter is going to be different. So there's no one fix-all. You do this or you do that. So we have to be careful with each consideration. So you've been listening to Active Listening with T4 Tactics. Thanks everyone for listening. Remember, be safe, reduce injuries, and save lives. Take care.